What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a post-Cyberstorm access Branded Despia Deck Profile. Now, today is the day that the set is finally legal, so let's go ahead and show you guys the build. And before we get into the video, I just want to remind you guys that the insane hieroglyph playmat that you're seeing on screen right now is currently available for pre-order at only $29.99. Definitely a steal. A lot of people's mats go for more than that, so make sure you check it out. Make sure you get yours before they run out. Go ahead and go to insanetcg.com. That is insanetcg.com on the screen and in the description down below. Make sure to pick up your insane hieroglyph playmat today. And I do just want to say that next Wednesday, from the time of uploading this video, will be the dedicated combo tutorial video for the Branded Despia Deck Profile post Cyberstorm access. So if you want to make sure that you catch that, make sure that you're subscribed, make sure that you have the notification bell hit. Let's go ahead and show you guys the list. So we're starting things off fairly simple. We are playing 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. This is just pretty standard. I don't think you really need the 3. Kashtira has not necessarily fallen off, but it doesn't really banish that many cards off the top of your deck anymore with the Arise Heart Pass, so you don't need a 3rd. And then we are playing 1 copy of Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous and 1 copy of Guiding Quem the Virtuous. Again, some builds play 2, I don't think you necessarily need it anymore, but the card that is absolutely incredible now is the Guiding Quem. This card might just be the card that adds absolutely everything that this deck needs to be the top of the top. I think this card is absolutely insane, and the amount of things that you can do with it, again, make sure that you're subscribed, that way you can catch the combo tutorial next Wednesday from the time of uploading this video. This card just gives you so much unnecessary advantage, so much recursion. It's an absolutely insane card. Then we have 2 copies of our Tri-Brigade Mercurier. Some people might only play this at 1. I like it at 2. It feels really, really strong, not only being able to open it, but searching it off of your branded loss as well as having it as an option to make a Rindbrum in your deck. So I think 2 is definitely the correct number, but it's all personal opinion. Then on to the actual Despias. We have 2 copies of Aluber. Now you might be asking why I'm not playing 3, and I'll explain that a little bit later when you see what I'm playing in the place of the 3rd one. Then we have our 1 copy of Tragedy and our 1 copy of Ad Libitum as well. This is a relatively standard Despia lineup. Like I said, the only thing that isn't necessarily standard is the Aluber, but we're going to get to that actually with this next card, because the preferred starter for this version of the deck is going to be Keeper of Dragon Magic. Now, I definitely agree with RevZ cards that this is the best branded card, even though it's not necessarily a branded card. This card just gives you so much advantage and so much ability to play through Ash Blossom, which Ash Blossom is essentially an FTK against this deck, so having this card as your option is definitely incredible. I would rather normal this than Aluber 100% of the time. Aluber I would rather special summon off of something like the Branded Opening, even though now you can technically also summon the Quem because it's also treated as a Despia card, but I think that the Keeper of Dragon Magic is insane. Not only does it just get you any fusion card, which you can search your instant fusion, your fusion deployment, and your branded fusion, but it's also able to summon fusion materials back from the graveyard, which comes up in a lot of combos because you can actually resummon out a Dark Magician from the graveyard and then fuse with it and the Keeper of Dragon Magic for an early Dragoon before 5 summons, before you even activate your branded fusion, so you have a way to put up a negate before you go into your actual line of plays, and I think it's just absolutely incredible. We are playing 1 copy of Bestial Lubellion. This is the best light target to send off Branded Fusion. It's really, really hard for me to play this without playing the Saronir, but with the new build, Saronir just doesn't really have a place, so unfortunately we had to cut it. But you still want to be able to send this to the graveyard to make the Albion, then use it to tribute the Albion and activate its effect to activate your Branded Loss from your deck. So really, really strong card. Then the 2 bricks we've got the Bufalicula and the Darlingtonia Cobra. Bufo isn't necessarily a brick because you can still use it as a polymerization. This is absolutely a brick. This is the 1 card in your deck that you never want to open. So if you open it, oof, you know, it happens, but yeah, this card's incredible. Same as the Keeper of Dragon Magic, can search for any fusion spell card that also implies the fusion deployment. So even though it's not a card that fusions, it has fusion in the name, therefore you can search it, and that's really, really strong in and of itself. And then we have our 1 copy of Dark Magician for the Dragoon play. And that's it for the regular monsters. The next couple are just hand traps. We're playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just generically the most usable hand trap. Something that your opponent does is always going to be able to be ashed. and obviously we want it as well for the crossout designator, because unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, the Ash is pretty devastating against this, so you want to make sure that you're able to stop it. So having as many copies in your deck as possible for a crossout designator target is just really good. And then we're only on 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. I really want to bump this to 3, and on top of this, I also actually kind of want to play Droll. Droll and Ogre are, in my opinion, tied for the best hand trap this format, but I opted for the Ghost Ogre just because it felt like it could potentially be a little bit better. This is something that still needs to be tested, so the Ogres are technically flex spots, I guess, but that's going to be it for the monsters. Onto the spells. We've got a couple of one-ofs. So obviously we have our Branded Lost, very crucial to the combo. This card is broken. Honestly, this card should probably be banned, but that's a discussion for another day. Then we have our Branded in Red, obvious, our Called by the Grave, that way we can stop opposing Ash Blossoms, and our Instant Fusion. This is part of the combo and is searchable off of the Keeper of Dragon Magic. Instant Fusion also acts as another Ash out because we can Instant Fusion into a Millenniumize Restrict, which is like a Call by the Grave on legs. But not just that, you're able to Instant Fusion into the Predaplant Ambulum Melodies, which is just absolutely insane as well. Then we have our 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Don't need to explain that. This is literally the best card in the deck. 3 copies of Branded Opening. Now, this was a card that previously I was considering cutting down to 2 because it just wasn't that strong, but with the existence of Quem and Quem being treated as a Despia monster, you're able to opening into the Quem, and that's just actually nuts. Like, again, make sure that you're subscribed and you have the notification bells on, that way you can see the combo tutorial when I come out with it next Wednesday. But this card's actually insane, so it's a mandatory 3 of. Before Quem, yeah, probably could have cut it down. After Quem, absolutely broken. We have our 3 copies of Fusion Deployment, don't really need to explain that. We have our 3 copies of Crossout Designator. This is just really good for the Ash Blossom. And then the last 2 cards that we have in our deck are 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence. The reason it's at 2 is because I wanted to keep the deck at 40. I feel like this deck needs as much consistency as it can get. So by keeping the deck count lower, we have that consistency, and we're able to see things like our crossouts to out the Ash Blossom, which is a lot harder to do when you go above that 40 threshold. So 40 cards in the main deck, let's show you guys the extra. So for the extra deck post Cyberstorm access, I don't feel like there's really a lot of variance. There is one card that is a flex spot, and I will explain that when we get there, but for pretty much any branded deck that you see, you're probably going to see a very similar, if not the exact same. So the first card that we have is going to be the Grangungnal, the Dust Dragon. This is obvious, this is your Cartesia Fusion, and it has a lot of utility now, especially with the Quem being able to send a card from the extra deck, meaning that you get to activate the Quem effect, and that's just really good. Now, the flex spot is actually going to be the Despian Queritus. Now, the card that you could play instead of this is the Sprind, the Iron Dash Dragon. The Sprind is really good because you're able to use it with Albaz on your opponent's turn to pretty much super poly off any of their special summoned monsters, which that's really good. It makes it so that Rindbrum Engrave is a very big threat, but I personally went with the Queritus because I'm afraid of Baron. Now, with Super Heavy Samurai being the potential best deck of the format, they always end on a Baron, and this card is a very easy out to Baron because they either A, don't negate it and get run over, or B, they do negate it, which destroys it and summons out our Albaz, and then Albaz fuses with the Baron into a Mirror Jade. So I think that Queritus is probably just the better option. That still needs to be tested for me, but Sprind is definitely another contender, so that is the flex spot. I just kind of wanted to explain that reasoning for you guys, make sure that you understood why I play this over the Sprind, but why Sprind is still a very valid option as well. Then we have the Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, just at 1. I don't think we need to. We're not really respecting the Kashtira matchup that much, plus this isn't as important anymore. Albion is definitely the more important one. We have 1 Rindbrum. This is a really good card to summon, but also really good to just send to the graveyard. Because when it's in graveyard, you can reborn an Albaz, and then, like I said, Albaz is just going to be able to fuse on your opponent's turn as well. We have our 2 copies of Albion the Branded Dragon, 1 to summon, 1 to send. Sometimes we'll end up sending both if we don't have to summon it, but yeah, really good card. 2 copies of Mirror Jade. I don't think that needs explaining. This is the boss monster of the deck. Then onto the instant fusion targets, we are playing 1 Millenniumize Restrict and 1 Predaplant Ambulum Melodies. These cards, I already pretty much explained them. This is a Call by the Grave on legs. This is pretty much just an extender. It gets you pretty much everywhere you need to go. But the one thing that I do want to mention as well is that this card, if you summon it off Instant Fusion, there's a really cool interaction where Instant Fusion will attempt to destroy it in the end phase, and if you have a Branded Opening Engrave, you can actually banish the Branded Opening happening to keep this live. And if that's live on your opponent's turn, then it's essentially another negate, because you can suck up a card from grave or field, and then that monster's effects are negated. So yeah, really cool interaction there. We have our 1 copy of Predaplant Dragos Tepelia. This is just a given. It's good for combo. It's another negate on your field. We have our 1 copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. This is just a blowout. Kashtira can't really out it, and it's just really, really strong, especially because you can make it before you even activate your Branded Fusion, keeping your Branded Fusion safe from Ash Blossom. Our 1 Guardian Chimera, which is a given, the best branded in red target for the deck. Not only can it non-target destroy, but it can also draw you cards as well. And then we actually play a couple of Synchros to finish off the extra deck. That is going to be the Despian Lulu Walilith. This card is really, really good. You're going to cheat it out using the effect of Dusk Dragon, and then you'll be able to use it as a negate as well. And then we're actually playing 1 Golden Cloud Beast Malong. This is really cool because it's a level 6 light, meaning that you can send it off of the Dusk Dragon as well. And when it's sent, it pretty much acts as a bounce. You just get to spin a card that your opponent controls, so it adds another layer of interruption into your deck. You're never going to summon this, it's just send fodder, but it's a really cool send fodder because you actually get a really good effect off of it. So if you're going to use Cartesia during your opponent's turn, you can make the Dust Dragon, and if you don't need to send something like an Ad Libitum or an Albion or anything else like that, you can go ahead and send this and act as another interruption, and that's going to be the extra deck. And there you guys have it. That is going to be my Branded Despia deck profile for the post-Cyberstorm Access meta. I think that this deck is actually a really, really good contender now, especially with cards like Quem. I think Quem is just a disgusting card, so make sure you are subbed for that combo tutorial. You guys know the deal. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.